There's a book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Have you ever read it? So my favorite quote comes from that book, and I read that book years ago, and it's to read and not to do is really not to read. To know and not to do is really not to know at all.
Yeah.
So, and I always talk about this. It goes back to, I was a personal trainer. I had a client, he was 400 pounds. He was obese. He knew more about dieting than I did. Here I'm sitting with a six-pack, mid-20s, looking amazing. He knows more about dieting than I did. But what's the point of knowing that unless you apply it?
Yeah.
So I'm a huge believer is 50% is learning, 50% is getting out there and doing it.
Might even be more just...
Yeah, might even be more. That's just the way I kind of put it out there.
And the reason I say this is because I know people that have never read an investing book in their lives, but they have many properties.
Oh, yeah, they're killing it, right?
Crushing it, yeah. And they just kind of
just taken action.
They just showed up and they just did it. They put in the money and they put in the work, and then they learned, and they failed a bunch of times, probably more than they needed to, but they just kept doing it. And then they figured it out.
Jump in with 2 feet. Like Steve Harvey says that. Like, jump in with 2 feet.
Yeah.
Like, jump in and commit. Cut your safety nets. Burn your bridges.
Yeah. Burn the boats. Like
burn
the old
boat.
stories,
Commit. And the biggest thing I find with reading, it's not, I wouldn't say it necessarily makes you smarter. It makes you more knowledgeable. It gives you more awareness. So I know a lot of stats about a lot of things from reading. So I know like 52% of people go to college, drop out.
Yeah. I
know the average car loan is $500 a month over 96 months. I know the average wage in America. And when you start to be in the top 1% in this country, you've only got to make $400,000 a year. So when you start to learn all this information, you start to go, hey, I don't want to, I drive $6,000 Camry paid in cash, which makes me $500 richer per month over 96 months than the average American.
Yeah.
So understanding that makes it okay for me to buy that crappy car. I live in a small unit, which is like super cheap, but I know that by doing that, I can save more money because I don't care where I live. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm good.
Yeah.
Knowing that I've got bigger, better goals by saving this money and what I can do with this money. Or the fact that I can jump on a plane tomorrow and go wherever I want and not have to worry about money and not have to worry about a boss telling me I can't do it.
Yep.
So I've created freedom for myself by living below my means, but working hard at reading, trying to make as much money as possible, and making that gap as big as possible.
Yeah. Totally. I agree with that. And I mean, I also think, just to kind of add on to what you're saying, is sometimes though, like there's things that we want that would make that we just enjoy that has nothing to do with impressing people or anything like that, right? Like for example, I love cars. So for me, like some people would be like, I don't know why you'd buy this expensive, Porsche GT3 or whatever. And it's like, well, I'm not buying it for you. Like I actually really love it. I love the history of it. I love the performance. Like, I was a racing instructor for many years. So like I just have a deeper relationship with cars in general. So like for me, when I get into it, it's not just getting into a car. I'm like getting into this thing that's like history and like it's like a work of art. It makes
you happy.
It makes me happy, yeah.
But are you buying it day one, or is that a goal and that's something you're patient with
Yeah, it's something that I'm patient with, but it's also like, I mean, I've had an Audi R8, like I've had those things and I made it work, and I've always figured out a way to kind of have those cars in my life. Necessarily, maybe it was making money, maybe it wasn't, but always figured out a way to do it. But I do believe sometimes, you got to kind of, if you feel like that thing needs to happen, and maybe you need to go and get it so that you go and figure out a way to make more money.
Yeah, it's like a motivation thing, right?
It's kind of like burning the boats. You're gonna get to the island and you're gonna burn the boats, and
it's good to have motivation.
You're gonna go figure it out, because sometimes you can get stagnant with just like, I do agree with like living below your means, because we do, but at the same time there's got to be a point where like you're still trying to like raise a vibration in your life, right? Like the whole goal is to like enjoy.
It's a balance for you, right?
Yeah, and bring in more experiences. So until you get to the point where you don't need to worry about it at all, of course, there's you still got to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always think about, Gary Vee talks about this a lot. He goes, would you rather make $100,000 a year in a job you hate, or make $40,000 in a job that you love?
Yeah.
And I always think about that. Like, money is one thing, but happiness outweighs everything.
I agree with that. Yes.
Like happiness and health. Like your health is your wealth. If you haven't got your health and you got all the money, it's not going to do much for you.
Yeah.
Especially the way like America's going, everyone's dying early. And then being happy is everything. Like, not getting up like they say that 80% of lawyers hate what they do, but they do it for the money, and they make good money, and they work hard and they study hard, but they hate what they do.
Yeah, that's always weird. Yeah,
which is crazy, right? Yep. So like, I'm a huge believer, and from reading, I've learned that find what you love to do, find a way you're getting paid for it.
Yep.
Full stop. And if you don't know how to get paid for it, read some books, learn from other people, listen to podcasts.